If I had a dollar for every time someone asked me which platforms they should be on, I would not need to be creating content right now. But it's actually one of the most common questions that I get. And I understand why. The outside pressure to sort of be everywhere is real. You have a creator doing super amazing on TikTok, and then you have another creator just totally blowing it out of the water on LinkedIn or even Instagram, and you think you have to be doing all of those things. And just the thought of that is exhausting. But if you didn't catch the hint in what I just said, then let me take the pressure off right now. Someone that's going viral on TikTok is probably not doing much on LinkedIn, or vice versa. They're not everywhere, and you don't need to be either. You just need to be where your audience is. And if you don't know where your audience is yet, then you need to test to find out, but more on that in a little while. The thing that trips most people up is the shoulds of it all. They come to me asking what platforms they should be on before we've even figured out who they're talking to or what they're saying or why any of it matters to the person that's on the other side. But from my perspective, those platform decisions are near the bottom of the list of the things that you actually should be asking. It's literally one of the most inconsequential questions compared to everything that comes before it. And I'm not gonna lie, everything that comes before it gets me kind of excited. But I do know that if you start at platforms, you're basically deciding which roads you're going to drive on before you decided where you're going. So before we ever think about platforms, we need a few things in place first. One, we need to know who your ideal clients are. And I'm not talking about a vague idea of who might be buying from you. I want to point out a specific person that you're going to talk to. This person has very specific problems and very specific reasons why they would choose to work with you over anyone else. We need a real, tangible someone that you can talk to when you press record. Two, we need content pillars. These are themes in your writing and your videos that you're going to keep coming back to because they matter to your audience and they matter to your business. And you probably already know what they are, you just haven't defined them yet. Three, we need a publishing cadence and one that's realistic for you. This isn't aspirational. It's not a New Year's resolution. We're not shooting for the stars. And we're not listening to what some random internet expert says that you should do. We need to figure out a schedule that you can actually sustain. And four, finally, we need your voice and tone documented. That way, everything that we generate as a first draft with AI is closer to what you would actually write, and there's less work required from you. We want that first draft to make it sound like it came from you because it did. Now, I'll be going much deeper on all of those items in the next few articles because it's just way too much to talk about here. And I believe they are all essential to setting you up for success, and they deserve their own moment. But I want you to understand the order of operations now so that you can understand how they all work together later. So when we're ready to have that platform conversation, here's how I approach it with my clients. I take everything we've built together, CPs, the content pillars, the voice and tone guide, their goals and publishing cadence, and I load it into an LLM. And then I just ask, Claude, given everything you know about this client, who they're trying to reach based on the context that I've given you, which platforms do you think they'd be most successful on? I will personally read it over. Sometimes I argue back and forth with Claude a little bit and get it in a shape that I'm ready to deliver to my client and explain. I hop on that call, we go over it all together. I take notes and I record the call so that I can take that transcript and put it back into the LLM chat, including any actual edits to the document that the client may have given either before or after the call, because it includes things like the client's read on the industry and details about the client's specific situation, and maybe even where they think that the recommendations need to be adjusted because of a personal choice. I see this all the time, and one very common example is publishing on the platform X. A client will look at the recommendation to publish there and say, yeah, there's no way I'm doing that. And you know what? Completely legitimate choice. Whether it's personal, ethical, practical, if they won't do it sustainably, then it doesn't belong in the strategy. And then I take all that information and begin to make my final recommendations for the client. Of course, they have the final say, but based on what I know about them, what the LLM recommends, and what they've already told me in this process, I make those final human-led recommendations, and the client almost always signs off on it right away because they've been with me in the process this entire time and they understand how we got to that point. So the final platform decisions are always a blend of three things: what the LLM recommends based on content and analytics, what my judgment adds, and what the client will actually follow through on. All three of those have to be in agreement before we finalize. Now, what if you don't have analytics yet? What if you're just starting out and you genuinely don't know where your audience is? Well, then you test. But testing doesn't mean posting once or twice and seeing what happens and making an entire year's worth of decisions based on those two posts. You need a meaningful amount of content on a platform over time, published consistently, before you have real data in order to make a decision. My general rule is that I ask for my clients to give me at least 6 content cycles, whatever that might be, before we draw any conclusions and make any long-term strategy goals. I know sometimes that could feel like a long time, but anything less than that, in my opinion, and you're making guesses, not qualified decisions. And one more thing I want to mention, because I think it's going to matter a lot in the next 6 to 12 months, and I don't see a lot of people talking about it yet. Some platforms are being mined heavily by LLMs. I'll give you an example. LinkedIn and ChatGPT are both owned by the parent company, Microsoft. So everything that we publish on LinkedIn is directly feeding into ChatGPT. So if you want your content to be recommended by ChatGPT, there's no question that you need to be publishing everything that you want it to know on LinkedIn. So even if you test and you determine that LinkedIn isn't where your audience is, you may still want to choose to publish there just for that reason alone. Showing up there consistently might still be worth it solely for LLM visibility if that's what matters to you. So just keep in mind that this is only going to increase over time, and we're not quite sure how it's going to land, but what you publish and where is directly affecting how AI tools recommend you, represent you, and talk about you when someone searches for something that you do. And if you're like me, you're asking yourself, but how do I know who my ideal clients actually are? And what should my content pillars be built around? And how do I get my voice documented so that everything sounds like me? It's coming, I promise. I have so much more to say on this, and I want to share it with you in so much detail that it's going to make your brain hurt, in a good way. But for now, here's where we land. You don't have to be everywhere. You just have to be where your audience is, and where you're willing to show up consistently, and where the platform aligns with what you're trying to build. But start with your strategy. Define your ICPs, your content pillars, your publishing cadence. Get your voice and tone documented. Then make the platform decision with your data, your judgment, and your preferences, all at the same time. Test where you need to, and give it enough time to tell you something real. And stay open to the fact that the right answer might change as your audience grows, and as the platforms themselves evolve. So instead of stressing about what platform you should be on to make the most impact, you can rest easy knowing that Kevin Costner said it best in one of my favorite movies. If you build it, they will come. Until next time.